Hello and welcome to the Ice Guys, brought to you by the National Hockey Now Network. This is the show that takes you into the world of the National Hockey League. Every game, every day, from a betting perspective. With pro sports handicappers, Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, and various guests from the world of hockey and sports betting. And now, here's your host, Ian Cameron.
Welcome to the Ice Guys, presented by National Hockey Now, Wednesday, February 15th. Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, ready to break down the Wednesday card. A little bit more of a fuller slate than usual on a Wednesday night. 6 games tonight, a half dozen, a six-pack in the NHL for a Wednesday night, including a TNT doubleheader featuring Chicago, Toronto, followed by Minnesota and Colorado. Those are the TNT television games tonight. So we'll break those down. But first, as always, we like to look back on yesterday. An up and down day for me, but it was certainly not up and down for our guest yesterday. Ben James, Straight Bet Ben. He actually has a personal Twitter, and now he has a betting Twitter. His betting Twitter is Straight Bet Ben. And the reason he's called that is because he doesn't believe in parlays. He's only a straight bet guy. He's probably better off because of that. But nevertheless, a great debut. I mean, he came onto the show saying, I'm doing really well in the NHL. I want the chance to be on the show. And he did great. Swept the board. Incredible work. Great job by Ben yesterday on the show. Yesterday was a crazy day in the NHL. Lots of surprising results. I'll tell you what surprised me. The Ottawa Senators beating the New York Islanders last night as a dog on a back-to-back. It was a very, very impressive victory for Ottawa, bolstered by a terrific goaltending performance from Kevin Mandolese last night, who was outstanding in net for the Senators. 40-plus saves for the kid? And this is a guy that's got that 3-plus goals against an 800-plus or below 900 save percentage in the AHL, and he looks like Marty Brodeur last night in his NHL debut. So outstanding work. And the Islanders now, that's 2 losses in a row to teams that most likely aren't going to be making the playoffs. So all of a sudden, the hype and the excitement about the Islanders since the acquiring Bo Horvat has cooled off just a little bit as they lose to the Ottawa Senators last night in that game. I couldn't believe it when I saw it, but I'll take it. As someone with the Devils in regulation last night, as they scored with mere seconds left in the third period to pull out the 3-2 victory over the Columbus Blue Jackets last night. Like I said, I had the Devils in regulation, so I enjoyed seeing that quite a bit. Carolina with a 3-2 victory over Washington, and we do note that, of course, we mentioned on the show yesterday, Alex Ovechkin away from the team due to a personal matter, a health issue in the family. We found out today that health issue was his father, who unfortunately has passed away, and we send our condolences to Alex Ovechkin and his family. He was very close with his dad. There's no question about that. So very sad news on that front. And we just wish the family all well, obviously, during a very difficult time. Carolina getting the win last night against the Ovilus Washington Capitals in that game. And again, it's worth noting these teams play a game tomorrow night against other opponents before they meet up again Saturday night on ABC, nationally televised outdoor game at Carter Finley Stadium in Raleigh, North Kakalaki, home of the NC State Wolfpack football team who plays there during the season. So that they'll play Saturday night outdoors, but they both play tomorrow night, Washington hosting Florida, and we've got Carolina tomorrow night hosting Montreal tomorrow before they play each other again outdoors on Saturday night. So a 3-2 win there. That was the best bet for me, Carolina in regulation. So it's good to cash that. Best bets are starting to continue to be on a nice little run right now. We saw St. Louis, another surprising result. Florida was on a back-to-back, but still, that's no excuse. You shouldn't be losing 6-2 to St. Louis, even if you are on a back-to-back. It was a rough night. Rough night for Spencer Knight as well, no pun intended. But Spencer Knight obviously hadn't played in a while, was worried about that quite a bit going into the game. That's why I stuck to the over, and I just thought Florida would do more of the scoring, not St. Louis. But nevertheless, we got there with the over in that one, but a very disappointing setback for the Panthers. Jets with a 3-2 shootout win against Seattle. Don't look now, but Dave Riddick for the Winnipeg Jets, Alex, is on a win streak as a starting goaltender for this team. So this auto fade of Dave Riddick is put on the back burner for now because he stepped up and he's played better hockey lately and holding Seattle to 2 goals and leading the Jets to victory last night over the Kraken. Boston 3-2 in overtime. Perfect result for me. Couldn't have been any better this game. I said on the show I was going to have 2 bets on this game. Alex is the draw guy on this show, not me. But I really liked that draw in the Bruins and Stars last night. I figured it was going to be a tight game. It was going to be a close game. And Alex, the reason I ended up on the draw at plus 330 is because I remembered back to the game we saw in the Super Betcast on Saturday with Dallas. Yeah. That game could have easily went to overtime. It was a minute away from going to overtime before Tampa won it in the final minute. Dallas was playing a slew of games that went beyond regulation recently before that. Boston's starting to play, tighter games, 1-goal games. The Washington game was a 1-goal game, of course, on Saturday. That nearly got to overtime. So I thought the draw was very live, and I also had a little bit of Boston. So that was the perfect result to go 2-0 in that game with Bruins money line in the draw.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, we're fully approaching draw season now, and I'm kind of mad at myself because a couple of them that I didn't play, one being Boston, Dallas, which were the cash, and the other one was actually New Jersey and Columbus. Thankfully, I didn't end up having that one, of course, because Devils getting that goal about 1.4 seconds left in regulation. That would have been a horrible beat. It was if you had to draw, but that wasn't a bad play. And that's the thing. It's kind of tough. When looking at the draws, we always talk about situations with teams that are in the playoff hunt needing points, but sometimes you just have these teams that just go on streaks. Now, New Jersey happens to be both. They are a team that's looking to make the playoffs, getting as many points as possible, but they've also just been a streaky team going into overtimes. So it's kind of worth looking at playing it. Even if you play it small, a quarter unit, it's worth throwing something on them right now for the next few games, even when they're playing lesser competition like Columbus.
Yeah, no. And draw season is here. We said to our good friend Tim York, what he uses another name though in the Betcast. I'm trying to remember what it is. Jesus, I forget now. Goose, I think is what it was. Yeah, okay. Goose in the Betcast when he was on the Betcast Saturday night. But Tim York said he won a bunch of draws last night. It is. You got to start looking at some of these draws. There's no question about it. Points are at a premium. The teams just want to get to overtime, get the 1 point solidified in the bank, and then they go for the extra point in overtime. So yeah, you're going to see a lot more draws, I think, and it's definitely worth looking in that direction, I think, moving forward as we come down the stretch of the NHL season. The last couple games on the slate last night, we saw Tampa Bay, probably the game. It was the game of the night. It was an excellent hockey game. It was the game we hoped we'd see last Thursday when they played in Tampa in the first Stanley Cup final rematch, and it was a blowout for Tampa Bay. But last night's game made up for it. It was a great hockey game, back and forth, outstanding pace. And you got to give Tampa credit. They didn't start out well. I'm thankful that I split my Colorado stances in that game. I had a first period and a full game on Colorado and ended up splitting. The first period won, obviously. The full game lost as Tampa came back and won in a shootout. But it's a great hockey game. And that's 2 road games in a row, Alex. Tampa Bay kind of outplayed by the opponent, outplayed by Dallas, outplayed by Colorado. But who cares when Andrei Vasilevsky's just a brick wall in net? Absolutely spectacular. Some of these reflex saves that he was making in goal, like there was clearly room on the far side for some of these shots from Colorado in the third, and somehow he's getting a blocker on it. He's getting an arm on it. He's just, sticking out some kind of body part to get a piece of the puck, no matter what it takes. And he was able to do that a couple of times when that game was 3-3 late in the third period. Outstanding goaltending clinic, 2 games in a row on the road for Tampa Bay. And we've talked about how Tampa Bay has played some mediocre hockey away from home this season. I'd say they continued to play kind of mediocre hockey these last 2 road games as well. But the difference is Vasilevsky stealing 2 points.
Yeah, and I mean, they're going to go as far as he carries them, honestly. We saw him struggle early in the year. They struggled early in the year. Now he's got his game rounded in the form, and the rest of the bolts follow right along with him. So, that's the biggest key. And it's a lot of teams like that right now. And it's a bit concerning. I honestly would say any team that is relying heavily on their goaltender now, I probably wouldn't look to bet a future on to win the Cup this year, because this is awfully early to be relying on Vasilevsky to steal you back-to-back games. You want him doing that in games 2 and 3 of the conference semifinals, not games 68 and 69 in the regular season. I mean, it's helpful, but obviously, but I just worry about teams like Tampa and even Dallas right now. Dallas is the team that I like to win the West. I do have a small future ticket on them at plus 650, but I'm really worried about them because, if Ottinger struggles, this team struggles right along with him. And right now they seem to be kind of out of sorts in the sense of when they're getting the offense, they're not getting the goaltending. When they're getting the goaltending, then they have to rely on a 2-1 game. So they got to get some better balance. Where Tampa is just right now, they're flowing in the right direction, but how long can it sustain? How long can you rely on Vasilevsky to steal you games during the regular season? Can the offense step up and give you some consistency more? We've seen Elliott play well as a backup too. Can you rely on Elliott to give you more starts down the stretch? So this question those teams have to really kind of ask themselves. They're good teams, they're worth betting on, but you just have to be kind of careful and be a little choosy. And as far as future markets go, I would kind of maybe wait until after the deadline with some of those teams. If they can make some upgrades, then that's the time to strike on them. But as of right now, even though they look like they're playing bad, I need to see some better form out of those teams, despite having winning results.
Yep, exactly. Sometimes the win doesn't mean you played great, especially in this sport. No question about that. Pittsburgh, San Jose, the final game last night. Basically, Pittsburgh with the win. Frustrating, though, because I expected 3-1 or better out of that game. I had Pittsburgh first period, Pittsburgh regulation, Pittsburgh team total over, and the full game over, and we lost the totals. The team total fell short. The full game over stayed under. So to be 2-2 is kind of disheartening in that game, disappointing. But nevertheless, it was a great effort, both ends of the ice from Pittsburgh, actually. Both ends of the ice. Crosby got kicked out for the first time in his career against LA. And what did he do to make up for it? 3 points last night for him against the Sharks. And great performance by DeSmith, who got pulled in that game against LA as well. What a bounce back for him against the Sharks last night, and a nice workmanlike solid 3-1 victory for the Pittsburgh Penguins last night. Alex, any final thoughts about last night before we move on to tonight?
Well, I just say that's just the mark of a true veteran team right there. Have a bad game all around one night and then bounce back, especially against an inferior opponent like San Jose, and just play solid at both ends. Has great goaltending. So Crosby stepping into the 3 apples. You had Gensel with the 2 goals. Just a good all-around effort. Could have been more offense, especially early, because I had that first period over at 2. So unfortunate to lose, like I said, with all the totals there. But that is a good effort. That's something that the Penguins can build upon.
Yeah, no question about that. So a fun Tuesday night. And look at this is a Wednesday card that's bigger than usual. So, usually we think of Wednesday as a blah night, only a couple of games, and really you start looking ahead to Thursday already. But we got a 6-pack of games here on a Wednesday night. So looking forward to them. We'll start with the Chicago Blackhawks and the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I hope the juice is worth the squeeze if you're taking Toronto tonight. We've got Toronto up to -600 home favorites here in this game tonight on TNT, hosting the Blackhawks. 6.5 the total in this game. I don't care who's playing who. I don't care if it's the Montreal Canadiens of the 70s, the Islanders of the 80s, the Red Wings of the 90s playing against today's, Anaheim Ducks. I don't care. I've never taken that team as a -600 favorite. Not even taking the 90s Red Wings, the 80s Islanders, 80s Oilers, against the Anaheim Ducks of today as a -600 favorite. I'd still never do it. And I'm not doing that, obviously, here with Toronto. And let's be honest here with look, Toronto, this should be I don't want to say a layup for Toronto, but they're not happy about the performance against Columbus. They've had 3 days off. They're getting Austin Matthews back from injury tonight. Chicago's on a back-to-back on the road after getting skunked and shut out somehow last night by the Montreal Canadiens. It's got to be a win for Toronto, you would think. But at this price, we have seen Toronto spit the bit more than once. We have, honestly. Columbus, Arizona twice, laying a price in this kind of stratosphere earlier this season. So it's still, it wouldn't shock me if we're 2-2 in the third and Toronto's, just scraping out a victory or trying to scrape out a victory in this game. So we'll see how it fares here tonight for them. Obviously, if they play their A game, they could roll past this Chicago Blackhawks team, but it doesn't always work that way. We expect Ilya Samsonov in net for the Leafs tonight. It was Jackson Stauber, the youngster, last night for Chicago. So it makes you think Luke Richardson's going to tab Peter Mrazek here against his former team. Again, he was only with the Leafs for 1 season, but they kind of punted on him. How can you blame them, with the injuries and the inconsistency? But if any opponent's going to get Peter Mrazek stoked, it's probably playing Toronto tonight if he is in that. So, this is just an impossible game to do anything from a side perspective or even a totals perspective because, I could see a 5-2, 6-2 Toronto. I could also see 4-1 Toronto or 4-0 Toronto in this game. So this is just more of a game where if you're going to get involved, look at props. I think Austin Matthews and Nylander in particular, Matthews will be chomping at the bit his first game back. Nylander has been red hot lately. So if you can find Nylander goals and Nylander over shots on goal, Matthews shots on goal makes sense too. But I mean, we're talking 3.5 with juice. You probably even have to go 4.5, even just to get a decent price on that. But if you're going to put together a same game parlay, in this kind of game, you could always get, a little bit better number. You get, Austin at 3+ shots, Nylander at 3+ shots, have a better opportunity here. Because, 3.5 on Matthews is -155 juice, but I definitely think he shoots the puck a lot. He'll be fired up. His return to the lineup. Nylander's been terrific for the Leafs as well. So those are obvious prop guys, but in a game where it's a team that stunk the last game, I expect the best players to play good in a game like this for the Toronto Maple Leafs tonight. So, the rumors with Kane are interesting. You're right that the Leafs are in the mix somehow. How are they going to afford it? That's what I keep coming back to. How the hell is this cap-strapped team going to afford Patrick Kane? I know they want him, but, want doesn't mean you're going to get. So, and they've got to make the money work. And I don't know. I don't think there's a capologist. He could be the smartest and most intelligent capologist known to man. And I don't even think he's going to be able to crunch the fucking numbers to a point that it's going to make it work and fit for the Toronto Maple Leafs. So I'd say let's hold it on the Patrick Kane's going to Toronto. I know Biz Nasty on Spittin' Chicklets was talking about bring Patrick Kane to Toronto. Calm down there, Biz. I mean, there's a lot of freaking cap and financial gymnastics that are going to have to work if that trade's going to get pulled off. What do you think here, Alex? Chicago and Toronto?
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, I think one trade that actually could work would be Patrick Kane for Austin Matthews. I think we could do that. Probably could work that out. But jokes aside,
Chicago.
I think we swing that. But this, unless you were betting on Mike Tyson in the 1980s or Floyd Mayweather, like in the last 15 years, there's no way you should ever been laying 600 on anything, especially not in a hockey game, especially not the Toronto Maple Leafs, a team we've seen time and time again, year after year after year, lose as big favorites. This price is absurd. What's even more absurd was this morning, the regulation price for the Blackhawks was plus 585. I took a small shot with that. Some beer money. I mean, it's an absurd price, and I understand the Hawks looked like dog shit last night. Jackson Stauber finally had a bad game, couldn't get the offense rolling again, and now you're playing Toronto second night of back-to-back. Peter Mrazek returning to Toronto, which could mean he stands on his head, or it means he lays another goose like he's been doing for the last 5-6 starts. But like I said, we know Toronto's tendencies of playing a game like this, and all of a sudden it's scoreless after 20. They're down 1 after, or it's tied 1-1 after 4.
Proud as a Morgan there. Yeah, we've heard that before on a weeknight. Yeah.
And then the Hawks get that first goal in the third, get an empty netter, they lose. Hawks win 3-1. I could see that easily happening, just as easy as I could see Toronto winning this thing 7-0. So I have Hawks regulation in pocket. There's no real handicap other than the price is insane, and hope the Hawks win. And if not, it was just worth it. It's a lottery ticket essentially. So.
Yeah, this is the ultimate dog or pass. I mean, if you're going to do anything on the money line, you take the shot with Chicago or you do nothing. It's really that simple. And it's actually, take the Hawks or nothing. Exactly. I mean, you can't even go money line or anything with Toronto here. Unless you're confident that the Toronto Maple Leafs are going to absolutely steamroll the Chicago Blackhawks tonight, where in that case you might be interested, in an alternative puck line, -2.5, -120, -3.5, +195, +200. Unless you're absolutely confident Toronto's just going to drill Chicago in a game where it is nationally televised, you would think the Blackhawks put up some kind of fight, then there's no value at all on the Leafs side. In this kind of game. No question about that. All right, next up, we've got Tampa Bay and Arizona. We've got the Lightning -250, road favorites, 6.5 the total in this game. That old saying, scared money doesn't make money. This is going to be the ultimate game to prove that point for yours truly. We're doubling down on the Arizona Coyotes tonight in this game. Yes, you heard that right. First period, full game money line, Arizona for me. In this one. I just think this is a horrible, horrible, horrible spot for Tampa Bay. They just got an ultra satisfying, ultra, scintillating win against Colorado, beating the Avs for the second time in less than a week, beating the team for the second time in less than a week that took the Stanley Cup from them last June. If there's ever a moment where Tampa Bay gets that old-fashioned exhale, it's tonight, and relaxes in this game against the Arizona Coyotes. And I think this definitely has the feel of a live home dog that just takes advantage maybe of a little bit of a napping Tampa Bay Lightning team here in this game. Not to mention Brian Elliott probably in net on the second night of back-to-back games. His play has fallen off, of late for the Tampa Bay Lightning. And his numbers overall for the season, quite honestly, are still far from they're not Vasilevsky-esque, that's for sure. 9-3, that's a good win-loss record, but 3.14 goals against average, .898 save percentage. He allowed 4 goals in the overtime loss against San Jose at home in his last start. So it's just absolutely a spot where I think it's very dubious to be laying minus 250 here with the Lightning. Back-to-back situation as well. And look, Arizona's not playing terrible hockey at all right now, at all. You've seen them put up a fight. It is Connor Ingram, by the way, in net for the Coyotes. We'll see how he fares in this game. The last game against Chicago, he gave up 4 goals, but he actually faced 44 shots in that game. So, yeah, he gave up 4. Chicago won that game. He didn't play that bad considering how many shots he faced. Faced a lot of rubber. And then the last game against Anaheim, he gave up 2 goals on 45 shots. So while he's given up 4 in 3 of his last 4 starts, he's faced a lot of shots in those games, courtesy of the Arizona Coyotes. So, he's not played bad, even though the results haven't been there. I just think for Arizona, it's just one of those spots where even against the mighty Lightning, I worry where the heads are going to be for the Lightning here in this kind of spot. And again, we talk about how the Lightning have won the last 2 road games. They won them because the goaltender made critical saves. Dallas was every bit as good, if not better, than Tampa. Colorado last night was every bit as good, if not better, than Tampa. So definitely I think this is a dubious spot, tricky spot here. I know Tampa Bay's won 3 of the last 3 straight against Arizona, but 2 years ago, here in Arizona beat Tampa 7-3. Last year in Arizona, 4-3 Tampa by the skin of their teeth. They beat the Arizona Coyotes here in the desert. Earlier this year in Tampa on New Year's Eve, it was 5-3 Tampa. And, Arizona got off to a 2-0 lead in that game. And actually, they cashed the first period, Arizona, in that game against Tampa at Tampa back on New Year's Eve. So that's why I'm splitting it up here. First period, money line, Arizona, and full game money line on Arizona. First period, by the way, is around plus 150 with Arizona money line, and of course, full game is north of plus 200 in this one, and the over. I think you can probably look over the total here too, because even with Ingram and net, Tampa probably finds some goals, and Arizona, I think, against Elliott will score here tonight as well. Here, series history, 4 straight overs, Lightning versus Coyotes. If you look at Arizona offensively, actually 3-3. 5 and 4 goals in their last 4 games. So they're fine in the back of the net, this Coyotes team. So 3 bets here. Arizona first period, full game money line, also over the total, 6.5. Alex, what do you think here? Tampa Bay, Arizona.
All right, so I have a power rankings question. How far away do you have Toronto and Tampa Bay from each other? Probably not that far, right?
They're close. I've got Toronto slightly ahead. Toronto,
okay.
Probably I'd put them, if you're doing a power rating, in my last power ratings, Toronto was 2 spots ahead of Tampa. Yeah.
Okay, and Arizona and Chicago probably fairly close too at the bottom, right?
Yeah.
So riddle me how we get a minus 250 on the Lightning and it's minus 500 on Toronto, minus 600 on Toronto. Now I understand home and road, I understand back-to-back angles, but this number just seems really crazy to me. And obviously the books have kind of caught on to it too, and that's why. Because of Arizona playing tight against Tampa in history, we're seeing this number plus 210. So if I were to back Arizona, I'd actually kind of want a little bit more value on this. That's probably the only time I'll ever hear me complain about a plus 200.
I agree. It's not like the best price you'll ever get to back Arizona. Yeah.
Yeah. I just thought that was really strange seeing this line right next to that Toronto-Chicago line. But with that being said, I got to say, not so fast, my friend. I like Tampa Bay, and I like the over 5.5 in a combo bet here. You just mentioned about Connor Ingram. He did, play well against Chicago, but the fact that he saw 44 shots and 4 goals went past him with how bad that Blackhawks offense has been and inconsistent, and this Tampa Bay team's finally getting things rolling in the offensive department, he sees 44 shots. He's letting in, I think, a bit more than 4 goals here. So I like over 5.5. I'm going to combine that with the Lightning to win at plus $1.10.
There you go. And that's the way to bet Tampa. That's the way to, if you're going to actually bet Toronto, and that's the way you got to go. You got to go with a Toronto and over or Toronto and under combo for sure in a game like this. So Tampa Bay and over 5.5 plus 110 for Alex in this game. As far as the prop board is concerned in this one, there are a couple of obvious choices for me with Arizona. Obviously, Chikrin's out. They're being cautious. They know he's going to get peddled. He's going to get traded at some point soon. But Clayton Keller is feeling it right now for this team. Lawson Krause is probably another good player prop option. Nick Schmaltz. If you're going to go with anybody on Arizona, you go with those guys. Even Nick Bukestad has scored twice in the last 3 games. Some good player prop options there in this one. Krause with 3 goals in the last 2 games. Keller is on a streak of consecutive 4 games with a point. And he's got a ton of points as well. 9 points in the last 4 games and 3 goals in the last 4 games for the Coyotes from Clayton Keller. So definitely some good prop looks there. As far as the shots on goal numbers too, we've got a couple. Let me just bring out the old recent form sheets that I use basically, and they really are helpful, in these kind of situations in terms of finding the good prices here. Let me just see what we've got. All right, here we go. Tampa Bay, Arizona. Yeah, in terms of, I'm just looking. Yeah, it's Hedman. That's who I was thinking of for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Hedman's gone over his shots on goal 7 of the last 10 games. Arizona actually has a propensity to give up shots from the back end as well. So it's a very good shots on goal number tonight. Victor Hedman for the Tampa Bay Lightning. And it's not a bad price either for that, for the Lightning as well. He's got only minus 125 for over 2.5 shots on goal tonight. So I think it's a pretty good prop there as far as the Lightning are concerned for shots on goal from Victor Hedman in this game. But there we go. Taking my shot here with Arizona. First period full game money line and over 6.5. Alex going with Tampa and over 5.5 plus 110. All right, next up we've got Detroit and Edmonton. We've got Edmonton minus 240, home favorite, 6.5 the total in this game. This is an interesting handicap because Detroit's played a nice little brand of hockey here the last few games, playing pretty solid. Ville Husso's been pretty good in the last few games as well in net for the Red Wings. They are entering on a 3-game win streak over Calgary and back-to-back victories over Vancouver. They're playing well. They're catching Edmonton off returning home from a road trip that went through Detroit, Philadelphia, Ottawa, and Montreal. But they have had a couple days off. And while I do think Detroit's got the form right now that makes them potentially a live road dog tonight at plus 200, it does feel like Edmonton brings it tonight. They weren't happy with that game against Montreal. It was a brutal way to end an okay road trip, I guess you could say. But I think after that 6-2 beatdown at the hands of Montreal, Edmonton will want to play a lot better here in this game tonight. So it wouldn't surprise me to see a better Oiler look here tonight, but it is a big price. And look, Detroit's playing well at the moment, and Edmonton beat them just recently 5-2 in Detroit. Edmonton last year when these teams met, by the way, here in Edmonton, it was 7-5 in favor of the Oilers. So I think overs in play. I'd probably prefer if I were to bet Edmonton, their team total rather than this, rather than the money line. Obviously, you'll at least get a little bit of a better price. Although that being said, you're not getting as the much better price I was hoping for with the Oiler team total, because the team total on Edmonton is still minus 158 here, over 3.5 at Pinnacle. So, it's exactly pretty pricey if you ask me for the Oilers at team total over, but I'd probably consider laying the juice here still. It's still better than minus 240. That's for sure. It might be one of those games too, where Edmonton can score 4 and Detroit could still win the game. I could see like a 5-4 Detroit, quite honestly here. So I still think it's not a bad way to go with plus 200 on Detroit. And Edmonton, I think, could still get over 3.5. I might do this. I don't do that very often. It's like you're taking the team total on one side, but you're taking the money line on the other side. There's a pathway both could cash here.
Yeah.
Because I think it's a tricky game in terms of, I think Edmonton, is probably going to score goals tonight because that's what they do off a loss, especially at home. And I think they'll get to 4. But I could see with this Red Wings team right now, and Dylan Larkin, hotter as a fucking firecracker right now for the Detroit Lions. They find their way to 4 or 5, and they're live to maybe win this game at plus 200. So a little bit of both. I don't mind that. Detroit plus 200, Edmonton team total over 3.5. I mean, Dylan Larkin props, it goes without saying. You have to put him in your pocket over shots on goal, scoring a goal, anything Dylan Larkin, you got to bet it right now. He is just on a heater of a heater right now for the Detroit Red Wings at this point in time. I don't know what's brought it on, but because he's a good player, don't get me wrong, but this is incredible what he's been doing here the last few games. 6 points and 5 goals in the last 3 games for this Detroit Red Wings team. So the captain is leading by example right now for Detroit. What do you think here, Alex? Red Wings, Oilers.
Yeah, it's interesting, and the theory you mentioned about money line on one side and team total the other. If you've been doing that with Montreal, I think Montreal was like over 2.5 every night, but they were losing games. If you're fading them in regulation and betting their team total over, I think that was cashing more often than not. So you can find some spots like that every now and then. It may not be something to follow as a dead-on trend, but in certain cases that could happen. And based on what you're saying with those two plays, it lends credence to what I like more. The live over, I want to grab that at 5.5. I don't think we're going to see scoring super early, so I think we will have enough time to get this down to 5.5 and that 125, maybe even have to lay 130 range. But I don't mind that because I think there's going to be goals back and forth, and that's still a better price option than, like you said, laying 158 with just the Edmonton side, or even going with a 6.5. So live over, we're targeting 5.5, hopefully minus $1.25. That would be the certain buy point for sure. Nothing worse than 130. That would be my play for that game.
All right, good stuff indeed there with the Detroit and Edmonton. And this is definitely a good game for props. Like I mentioned, Larkin is prop option number 1 on either side, in my opinion, for this game. But certainly from an Edmonton perspective, you can look at it's always interesting to take a look at what Jay Woodcroft plans on doing with the lines. And by the way, we don't have goalies confirmed yet for this game on either side. We got Husso and Skinner projected. But neither one is confirmed at the moment. But if you look at Edmonton's forward group right now, there are some interesting – I don't know if this is going to stay this way pre-game, but the morning skate and practice lineup combinations feature Warren Foegele and Jesse Puljujärvi flanking Connor McDavid here. And if you actually look at Warren Foegele lately, for the Edmonton Oilers, a little bit more of a pickup offensively from him. He had a 2-goal game against Detroit, this very same Detroit team just recently in the Motor City. So if you're looking at a prop for Edmonton, Warren Foegele, and if he's going to play top line minutes with Connor McDavid, how Connor McDavid can make me look good sometime on the ice, he probably could. Well, maybe not, but you get what I'm saying. Anybody can play with Connor McDavid pretty much, and they'll be the better player for it. So I think Warren Foegele could be worth a look. I should, you know what? Maybe that's not the case because here's Puljujärvi that might be getting another shot on the top line. I think it's because, look, I think they want to trade Puljujärvi. I'll be honest. I think they do, Edmonton. And I think they say, well, we're not going to get any value. We're not going to get any sort of assets back for this guy if he's buried on the 4th line, which is what he's been down on the 3rd and the 4th line lately for Edmonton. So they're putting him back with McDavid and possibly Foegele tonight. So, but again, I've said this before about Jesse Puljujärvi. He's had millions of chances with McDavid, and he hasn't produced. So are things going to change now all of a sudden? I'm not so sure about that, but you could. If you have faith, you could take his props here tonight. Kane, Draisaitl, and Hyman look like they're going to slot in as the second line. And the Nuge on the 3rd line with Vincent Desharnais, and Matthias Janmark, Holloway, McLeod, and Ryan on the 4th line, and Klim Kostin, who is still day-to-day with his injury. And then, like I said, for Detroit, Dylan Larkin's been the guy that's been stirring the drink for them of late. If you want to also consider a couple other options, Berggren, I always say, has been a nice young up-and-coming goal scorer. 3 goals in the last 2 games, by the way, against Vancouver for Jonathan Berggren for the Detroit Red Wings. Fabry got 3 points against Vancouver last game, 4 points in the last 2 games. So Robbie Fabry starting to heat up. There's another name to consider in the prop market tonight. And then there was one more on the Detroit side. I'm trying to remember who, but I think it was Bertuzzi, Tyler Bertuzzi, who has been in and out. But he now has 3 points in the last 4 games for Detroit as well. So definitely. Nice little game for props here tonight with the Red Wings and the Oilers. All right, that is the first half of the Wednesday NHL card. 164 live viewers on YouTube. Hit the like button and shout out to our podcast listeners as well. We'll be back to preview the remaining games on this Wednesday card right after we hear from Gramco.
All right, whether you or your team's game is on the field, screen, racetrack, or the ice, Gramco is for the game. Grown by farmers who spent years developing premium hemp genetics, Gramco provides customers with consistent quality Delta 8 products ready for any occasion. Gramco currently offers numerous Delta 8 products such as vape cartridges, disposable vapes, pre-rolls, gummies, wake and bake coffee, and more. Gramco offers an enjoyable legal high delivered discreetly and directly to you, and is also available at many American retailers as well. Get the best Delta 8 cannabis products on the market shipped quickly and discreetly from Gramco. If you visit www.thegramco.com, use promo code ICEGUYS, you get 25% off of any order, and all orders on the site that are $50 and higher are shipped free with standard shipping. So live elevated with Gramco and check out their wonderful Delta 8 products today.
All right, we're back here on the Ice Guys. The answer to the question in the chat here saying maybe whoever is in Raymond's place on the top line for Detroit, that would be Dominic Kubalik. Dominic Kubalik's taken that spot, the left wing top line spot for Detroit in the absence of Lucas Raymond. So, yeah, you could look at props with him, but the problem with that is he's foreigner right now. He's cold as ice. He's cold as ice right now. He hasn't scored, and he hasn't it's been a while since he's found the back of the net. But if you have the faith, he's going to get that opportunity on the top line for the Detroit Red Wings. Dom Kubalik in the absence of Lucas Raymond. All right, next up, we've got Colorado and Minnesota. This is a huge game tonight. I know it's only one regular season game, but with where these two teams are in the standings in the wild card battle in the Western Conference, it's two very important points on the line tonight. Minnesota minus 140, home favorites, 6 the total in this game. It's been a rough stretch out of the All-Star break for the Minnesota Wild. No question about that. They have had their issues. They lose to Arizona. The first game after the break, they get absolutely dominated by Vegas, 5-1. They do slip past New Jersey with a shootout win to break the 3-game skid, and then they fall to defeat once again 2-1 in a shootout in their last game against the Florida Panthers. So definitely struggles for the Minnesota Wild. And you look at this stretch here, Alex, for them, 3 goals. And I can't even say they scored 3 goals against New Jersey. They really only scored 2. They got the 3 because they won in a shootout. But 1, you could say 2 goals against New Jersey, 1 goal against Florida. It ain't going to cut it. You're not going to win games when you're that offensively impotent right now. And that's exactly what the Minnesota Wild are at this point in time. I can't tell you who the hell is scoring outside of Kaprizov and Eriksson Ek for this hockey team right now. It's a 2-man operation at the moment. What's happened to a bunch of these guys that were chipping in offense for them? What happened to, there's so many different players for Minnesota earlier this year that were playing well. Boldy's gone cold. Can't find him right now. Freddie Gaudreau has gone cold a little bit. That's concerning. Even Zuccarello still had a great season, but he's in a little bit of a funk right now. I mean, it's just collectively right now for the Minnesota Wild. They're having issues scoring goals at the moment. Now, there's no doubt situationals in this game point to the Minnesota Wild. They're rested. They're at home. They're off a loss. The Colorado's entering off a very intense, physical, emotional game against Tampa Bay last night where they lost in overtime. They're coming in here on a back-to-back. And actually, with the way this game's starting, it's barely 24 hours later after that Tampa-Colorado game. So there is a potential for Minnesota to jump on this team. And I definitely know situational handicappers are probably going to like the Wild here. But I'm not going to like the Wild here. Not at minus 140 in this game. I'm not interested at that price. I'm not rushing to bet Colorado either. But if you gave me a choice here, and it's a game I'm probably staying off, at least in terms of side and total. But if you gave me a choice, I'm taking plus 120 in a nanosecond, even on a back-to-back with Colorado before I lay minus 140 with Minnesota right now. So definitely would lean in that direction. What do you think, Alex? Avalanche, Wild?
Well, I think you know what I'm liking here. I like the draw. At plus 335. And I got to make this disclaimer. I know I do it every year, but we have new people watching. And with this being draw season in the second half, we're going to be playing a lot of these. I have to make this disclaimer. Bet the 3-way or regulation draw. Do not bet the yes-no prop or overtime because you will get screwed with that yes-no prop. Right now at Bet Online, the yes-no for overtime in Colorado, Minnesota is plus 300 yes. The draw at that same website is plus 335. So do not shortchange yourself out of valuable money going with that yes, no prop. Go always look for the 3-way or regulation draw. So I definitely have to make that disclaimer pointed out. But Minnesota, back-to-back games where we see them go into a shootout. 2 of the last 4 meetings between the two games have gone past regulation, and this just feels like one of those classic spots. You got Minnesota and Colorado neck and neck in the Central Division, hated rivals. Avs off of like a tough and emotional, game last night, running right back with Georgiev. You got Fleury in net for the Wild. Obviously, he wants to, get back into a better form. This just screams like a game that could easily be tied 2-2 or 3-3 with about maybe 7.5 left in the third. They're not going to do anything to jeopardize missing out on that single point and what could be a big swing game. So I like the draw here, plus 35. Regulation draw, plus 335 with the Avs and Wild.
All right, good stuff. I think I might bet that myself. That makes all the sense in the world. It's probably going to be a tight game, competitive game. Because one thing I don't see, like even with this being a tough spot for Colorado, I don't see Minnesota rolling them. I don't. It'll be a close game, I think, either way. And I don't think Colorado will necessarily win decisively either. So, I think it's definitely. And by the way, you're right about rolling back with Georgiev here tonight on a back-to-back after he was in net last night against Tampa Bay because Pavel Francouz is still out, unavailable for the Avalanche due to injury, and they don't really want to put Jonas Johansson in net when these big points are on the line. I can't blame him. It's Jonas Johansson. So definitely it's if you're Jared Bednar, your only option is roll back with Georgiev here on the second night of back-to-back.
I mean, it is, but then we're also talking about a team that literally claimed this guy 3 times, so they can't hate him too much.
Yeah. You had your chance to say goodbye, Jonas, and you just say, no, come on back. I don't know. Maybe they just maybe he's good. Maybe he's a funny guy. Maybe they miss his humor or some shit in the dress.
You know what I think it is? You know what I really think this is, and I won't go too far off from this diatribe, but I really think that it's goalie coaches, it's scouts, and they fall in love with like how guys certain tendencies are or their body size.
What? Come on, give me a chance with this guy. I can fix him. Yeah, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Just like the Arvid Soderblom, like Jimmy Waite going out and saying Arvid Soderblom's probably the best goalie the Hawks have had since Corey Crawford. Like, are you kidding me? What games are you watching? Like, they're going off of what they see in practice. They're going off of how they're working with, the hidden puck drill, the white puck drill, and different things like that. That doesn't translate into wins in the NHL. Like, I'm sorry, and it's just crazy. So I think there's a lot of these fringe goalies, they stick around and keep floating around because the coaches, the goalie coaches and the scouts keep them floating around. Like a Aaron Dell, for example. The only reason he's still even remotely being shuffled back and forth between, down the street from wherever or how with the AHL and NHL, it's because scouts are seeing certain things. It's not the things that we see as fans that are tangible, like Shesterkin, Vasilevsky. You could, Ray Charles could see that they're the top tier goalies. Those are the guys that stick around the last. These fringe guys that stick around, and they're the ones that you can usually fade in spots. So I don't know. It's something to keep an eye on too, because we talk about with the team having injuries. If they have to play Johansson, they trust him obviously, but do we as bettors and fans trust him? Not so much.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great point. It's a great maybe part of the thought process that maybe these goalie coaches go through with certain guys. But yeah, the draw for Alex in this one, I'd lean to that in a Colorado on the money line if I had to. But the draw, I could see that definitely hitting. This is a good shots on goal prop game as well. There's a bunch of guys that are going over their shot goal props lately for this Colorado Minnesota game. Matt Boldy, he's been going over 6 of the last 10. Over shots on goal for the Wild. Hartman over shots on goal. Eriksson Ek, 8 of the last 10 have gone over 2.5 shots on goal for the Minnesota Wild. So all 3 of them, Boldy, Eriksson Ek, and Hartman, I think all good prop looks here on the shot market for this game. I think Eriksson Ek might be a little juiced. That's the only issue. Yeah, minus 154 or so. But I think it's juice worth laying there, especially with him, because he's the one that's gone over his shots on goal number in 8 of the last 10 games. Evan Rodriguez is a shots on goal dynamo for Colorado right now. I think he had 4 or 5 last night in terms of shots on goal. And same with Big Val Nichushkin. I said Big Val Nichushkin's that hot commodity, I think, for the Avs from a prop standpoint. He's shooting a lot. I think his over shots on goal is worth a look again tonight, Valeri Nichushkin, and to score a goal. You know what Val Nichushkin can get like? He gets one, and then it's like the floodgates open, and he gets on a roll after that. So Val Nichushkin here for Colorado, shots on goal, goal prop, all makes sense to me. Even in a game of this magnitude, too, with McKinnon, he might be worth a look as well with his shots on goal number as well going into this game. And there's one I forgot with the Edmonton game. It's their guy McDavid, who's suddenly been shooting the puck a lot more lately, over 3.5, and it might be a good situational shots on goal prop tonight too. McDavid, for this reason, the team got crushed by Montreal 6-2 the other on Sunday afternoon. So all the more onus that, hey, we need a bounce back. It's got to be led and started by me if we're going to win. I'm going to take more of the onus and shoot the puck more and look to get my offense tonight against Detroit. So, yeah, definitely some options there in that game. All right, Buffalo and Anaheim. We've got Buffalo minus 220, road favorites, 6.5 the total in this game. You look at this matchup here, Sabres and Ducks, and, geez, should be a bounce back for Buffalo because they played some tough games lately. LA, Calgary, good opponents out of the All-Star break, and Anaheim, obviously, they're better than them. I do lean Sabres in regulation. I don't love the price, though. They should get the job done. I do think we have to look over in this game, if anything, from a totals perspective. Buffalo is in one of those zones right now where they're still scoring and still generating chances, but, man, their defensive game has just really struggled mightily here 2 games following the All-Star break. I mean, they were just running around like chickens with heads cut off in their own zone against Calgary on Saturday afternoon. And then I thought they were better at times against LA, but the blunders and the breakdowns when they had them, they were big ones. They were obvious ones. They were, you could tell. It's like, wow, eye-popping how bad the breakdowns were against LA. They didn't have as many as they did against Calgary, but when they had them, it was rough. It was also a rough night for the old man in net. Craig Anderson, like I said, it was rough to watch him. He's fumbling pucks in his skates. He's not tracking the puck well. Short side goals being allowed. Post-to-post movement slow. So it was a tough night for Craig Anderson against LA the other night. And I would think we're going to see tonight Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, although that hasn't been confirmed yet for this game. We'll have to see if he is indeed in between the pipes. But we expect UPL to be the goalie for Buffalo, probably John Gibson for Anaheim, but haven't seen that yet. So for me, if I bet a side, it's a timid, reluctant recommendation on Buffalo in regulation, but I think the total is the better look, over 6.5. Alex, Sabres Duck.
What is Buffalo? Are they in or are they out as far as trying to get into the playoffs? Like, they
are just on the outside looking in right now.
No. I know standing by, but I mean, like, their mentality. Like, are they going to go get a goalie and try to be in the playoffs, or are they going to stick with this random tandem?
What are they going to do? Yeah,
trio?
What are they going to do?
Like,
I don't think you upset the apple cart here right now, because if you actually look at it, they're now at the point with Pittsburgh winning, Washington, is 62 points, with Buffalo's little, malaise here out of the break. They've now fallen 6 points behind Washington for the second wild card and 7 points behind Pittsburgh. I think if you're Buffalo, what did you come into the season wanting to see? You wanted to see the team improve a little bit. They have. But are you at the point where you could be a buyer at the deadline, bring in enough to get you to a point where you can make the playoffs, and if you get in, can you win a round or two? The answer is no. So to me, you know what I'm doing? I'm standing pat. I'm not adding too much, if anything, at the trade deadline. I'm letting this season play out. It's already been a season where we've taken a step in the right direction. If we make the playoffs and we make a run, but we're not a team we're in a long-term plan here, long-term rebuild. Yeah. We're not looking to trade away draft picks, trade away players from our vast prospect, cupboard for sneaking into the playoffs this year when we could be dummied in the first round, likely having to play a Boston or Carolina. So no, the answer is no. I do not load up at the trade deadline. I stand pat.
Oh yeah, no, I wouldn't say load up the trade deadline, but in my opinion, I think this Buffalo team is a goalie away from being a wild card team. UPL is your backup right now, and he's the guy who's the goalie of the future. Don't move him, don't mess with him. But going between 41-year-old oft-injured Craig Anderson and Eric Comrie, who I basically called the DoorDash driver on a show earlier today, this is not going to carry you into the playoffs. Like, you don't need to make some kind of blockbuster deal. You can go maybe spring a prospect of Amelka if you have to go that route. But there's some other guys that I'm sure they could just put together some draft picks and prospects for, lower prospects for, and get you a guy that can tandem well with UPL and get you into the postseason. And then you can build from there. Like I said, there's no reason to rock the apple cart, but I just think this team's a goalie away. And in saying that, I like the over here at 6.5. I wanted to try to wait for a 5.5. I don't know if I'll be able to do that in game. I'm probably best bet would be to wait for this to come down to maybe $1.10, $5, maybe even money and jump in. But I think this is going to be a high scoring affair. We know how Anaheim's defense is just not even there anymore. Gibson sometimes shows up, sometimes he doesn't. But Buffalo, the way they are in net right now is just a mess. And if they can figure that out, I think they're going to be just fine. But they have to figure that out. And right now, this trio and this cycle and the way that UPL's playing, being the number one, it just ain't working.
Yep, definitely. Over for Alex here. Dylan Cousins, in terms of goal or shot or point prop, is worth a look. He's the undervalued player right now for Buffalo. With all due respect to Skinner, with all due respect to Tage Thompson, definitely you got to look if you're looking at goal prop or point prop. It's Dylan Cousins. He's the undervalued commodity. He's played great. He's the one save. He's been maybe their best forward since he brings it every night. He's not scared to get in the scrum either after the whistle. I honestly think, Alex, he should be the next captain of the Buffalo Sabres, Dylan Cousins. I really do believe that. I think he's got leadership qualities, and he shows it on the ice. He leads by example. Effort is there every night from Dylan Cousins. Yeah, we mentioned Alex Tuch, shots on goal of the last Buffalo game, right, against L.A., and it went over the total there. But the problem is now it's getting up there, right? I mean, Alex Tuch over shots on goal tonight's -160. Is the best price you can find. So you've got to either bet it, lay the juice on its own, or you've got to put it in a same game parlay. That's what you got to do. But certainly Alex Tuch has been an over 2.5 shots on goal machine. I mean, he's been absolutely. We talked about Carter Verhaeghe, same thing with Florida, and last night another over shots on goal for him with the Panthers. But there's a bunch of these players that have been trending that way, and Alex Tuch is one of them. His shots on goal, again, you got to lay some juice, but it's an obvious bet to make because he's just been an over machine. You look at as well, Cousins has been, like I say, his shots on goal because he's getting opportunities. Dahlin is shooting the puck a lot from the blue line right now. There's another over shots on goal player at the moment you could look at for Buffalo. And then on the Anaheim side of the fence here, again, their offense is a little bit more sporadic, if you will, from one game to the next. I mean, they're capable of scoring because they've got offensive talent, but you don't get it every single night. Necessarily from the Anaheim Ducks. But if you look at what we're seeing from them of late, let me just see here in terms of their numbers. There were a couple that I was interested in here in terms of the shots on goal. Zegras got 5 against Pittsburgh the last home game, and he had 3 against Arizona, 3 against New Jersey. He's actually been going over his shots on goal at home. He's been one of those home road split type of players. Zegras goes over the shots on goal at home. It's a little bit more dicey in terms of on the road, but at home he's definitely been going over shots on goal, and it's -120 for him tonight to go over his shots on goal. So there's another one too I'll throw out there in terms of Anaheim in this game with Sabres and Ducks, a game where we think it'll be pretty shaky defense on both sides. Neither of these teams are a defensive juggernaut by any stretch of the imagination. All right, final game of this Wednesday NHL slate. New York Rangers taking on the Vancouver Canucks. These teams just played recently in New York when the Canucks were on their recent road trip, and now they're back in Van City as the Rangers begin a Western road trip tonight. We've got the Rangers -200 road favorites. The total currently 6.5 across the board in this game. Rick Tocchet's saying the things that you would lead you to believe that, hey, we're bringing it on defense tonight. We've got to shore up our defensive zone. He's been saying it for the last 2 days. Our start and stops are stink right now. We're spinning. Yeah, you're spinning all right. Your head's going to be spinning, Rick Tocchet, pretty soon, watching this team try to keep the puck out of their own fucking net every night. I mean, that's what we're looking at right now with the Vancouver Canucks. Never mind the players spinning in the defensive zone because they don't know how to check and they don't know how to defend. Your head's going to be spinning watching them do that every single night. Look, he's saying all this shit that coach has to say in this spot. We got to play better defense. We got to really go back to school. That was the phrase he used, go back to school and work on our defensive fundamentals. That's great. You'll work on them in practice and you'll focus on them. But I heard him say that last week too, and I still see Vancouver giving up 5-6 goals on a nightly basis. So I'm telling you right now, this is definitely a Vancouver team that I'm sick of hearing about. We are working on our defensive game. We know we've got to get better on our defensive game. It's great to say that. You've got to be able to replicate that with action on the ice, and the Vancouver Canucks are not doing that right now. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. we're going back to over 6.5 again here with the Vancouver Canucks tonight. I don't know what more there is to say. I mean, it's just almost bet over 6.5 with a Vancouver Canucks game and cash a ticket. That's what it's been now for several weeks, if not several months, and it hasn't really changed all that much since Rick Tocchet's been here. So, I mean, definitely I would look at it as over the total again, and I do like that. I might split it up with a Ranger team total, because how do the Rangers not score 4 tonight? Like, this is now we have to treat the Rangers, Alex, like a dynamic offensive team now. And because they've played like it now for several games. This is not a team that needs to play those, airtight defense first type of hockey games. I think there's still a part of Gerard Gallant that wants to play that way, but he also, I think, understands now I've got a ton of creativity and speed and ability to score and talent and game breakers and finishers on my hockey team right now. Why handcuff them? Just let them play. Let them roll. Let them push the puck up the ice. Let them get the transition game going. Dare I say it, the Rangers are an over team right now. They kind of look that way to me when you look at the way they've played. 5, 4, 6, and 6. The goals they've scored in the 4 games since the All-Star break. All 4 games going over the total for the New York Rangers. Vladimir Tarasenko scores in his very first game as a member of the New York Rangers. A hell of a trade by Chris Drury to get Tarasenko. I think it's a nice fit. He's motivated again. He's inspired, no question. So Vlad Tarasenko, a great addition. Panarin coming off an incredible 4-goal game against Carolina on Saturday night in that 6-2 win. Kreider is starting to heat up. Zibanejad just continues to be consistent. Philip Hedl has been ridiculous the last couple of weeks. That kid line with him and Kakko, and Kakko's starting to produce a little bit too, and then Lafreniere as well. So you go on down the list, you go 9 forwards deep on this Rangers team now that can all score, that can all chip in offensively. So it's a very, very scary group right now offensively at the moment. So good luck with Rick Tocchet's demands. This team gets better defensively, because that's going to be put to the damn test tonight against this Rangers team. So I like Rangers team total over 3.5, and I like the full game over more, but I'm going to split it up with the Rangers team total as well. Rangers team total over 3.5, which you can get right now at minus 140, and also the full game over 6.5, minus 125. Alex, Rangers, Canucks.
So this isn't a not so fast, my friend, but this is a proceed with extreme caution. And the reason I say it is because, yes, okay, we're hearing all the reports and the talk from Tocchet about Vancouver wanting to play better defensively. Yeah, we all want things. I want Miranda Lambert and, $50 million in my bank account, but some things are just not going to happen. And Vancouver playing sound defense night after night, it's not going to happen. But with that being said, tonight in net, Artur Silovs making the start.
Yes, I saw that.
21 of the 28 games for Abbotsford in the AHL. Abbotsford actually a halfway decent AHL team. This guy's been responsible for most of their victories, has some pretty decent numbers, a 906 save percentage in the A. So this isn't a guy that's going to be a complete washover. Now, you're asking him to do a lot because there's basically, 6 traffic cones playing in front of him on the blue line.
That's the thing.
So that's where things get a little bit dicey. So I'd say proceed with extreme caution on that full game over. If he's playing solid early, maybe you can wait for this number to drop down and grab something in game. Even with the Rangers team total, if he looks hot early, then that drops to 2.5 at a plus price. By all means, pounce. I don't think he's going to be able to maybe put away a full 60 game effort, but we know how tricky it can be with some of these goalies making their first couple starts. Just saw Kevin Mandolese put up an impressive performance, and we talked about how his AHL numbers are.
And they want to win for the guy. They do. Look at Ottawa last night. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So be cautious. Be cautious with taking some of those Rangers props tonight.
Yeah. That does put a wrinkle in the plans a little bit. But like I say, the way I see it is I'm still sticking to those 2 bets, especially the full game over. Because if I lose tonight, who the fuck cares? Because I've won like 9 or 10 or 12 of these, the last several weeks. So if I give one back, it's not the end of the world. We're not going to be crippled from a financial perspective if the game stays under tonight. But that is an excellent point, because we did see it with Ottawa last night with Kevin Mandolese there, and they played very well in front of him. They wanted to win for the kid, and you could see that from the Canucks here with Artur Silovs in net here, the Latvian for the Vancouver Canucks in this game here tonight. So, but again, Silovs is going to be, hamstrung by the same issues that Spencer Martin and Colin Delia were dealing with. Just a horrendous blue line, shit show of a blue line in front of him tonight. So let's see if he can overcome that tonight. But it is a fascinating dynamic. It's a good late night watch, actually, Rangers and Canucks. Fascinated because I want to see how this kid plays. I want to see how they play in front of him. I want to see how he plays in spite of the play in front of him. That's the thing. Right. I know the play in front of him is going to be dog shit, most likely, because it has been most of the season. Can he overcome that, stand on his head? You never know. So, Kevin was able to do that last night for Ottawa. Played really well, made some really nice saves, especially in the third period when that game was tied. So definitely keep that in mind. We'll see if Seelovs can overcome this horrendous blue line that plays in front of him tonight for the Vancouver Canucks in this game. As far as the props go, for tonight, it's not a bad prop game to consider. Obviously, there's a lot of Philip Hedl. We've talked about it for weeks. I mean, this is one of those games where if you're going to bet Rangers props with just so many players playing well right now, you sprinkle smaller bets, smaller amounts, smaller units on a bunch of players rather than put it all on one player. You have to kind of consider that right now because Zibanejad's rolling, Kreider's picking it up. Tarasenko scored in his Rangers debut. Panarin's coming off a 4-goal game. You never know if he'll strike tonight. Hedl's still, one of my favorite considerations because you get the value with him. And don't sleep on his line mates on the kid line either. Kakko and Lafreniere, who have all played a lot better lately for the New York Rangers. I think for the Vancouver Canucks going into this game, you look at who's starting to pick their game up a little bit. Pettersson's been a beast. Pettersson shots or Pettersson points in particular. You got to look at that direction, no question with him. He's been one of the better players since Tocchet took over. For the Vancouver Canucks. Connor Garland, who is being talked about in some trade rumors, maybe worth a look as well. I could see him playing pretty well for them. Beauvillier goes without saying, 3 points and 2 goals in the last 3 games for him as a member of the Vancouver Canucks. So definitely some interesting player prop options. Tarasenko plus 210. Yep. I mean, he's a threat right now, and he's going to get the opportunity. He's on the top unit for this Rangers team, and so he's going to get those opportunities to make that offensive impact. Because if you actually look at the way it's set up right now for the Rangers, he's on the second power play unit because they haven't wanted to disrupt the first unit because of how good Hedl has been. But he's on the second unit, and still overall from a line standpoint, he's up there with Zibanejad. And obviously, when you're playing with someone like that, you're going to have a bunch of chances to make an offensive impact. Tarasenko with Zibanejad and Kreider, Panarin, Trocheck, and BC. And then, of course, that kid line, Lafreniere, Hedl, and Kakko. So, like I said, they go 9 deep now up front, this Rangers team. Very scary bunch right now in New York, no doubt about it. All right, that's the Wednesday NHL card. Hit the like button for those of you watching on YouTube. We appreciate it very much. We will wrap up the show. And by the way, patreon.com/Ice Guys, just $10 a month. We've got our Jimmy Murphy video that we recorded recently, Rink Tales with Jimmy Murphy. Great stuff. A lot of fun to do that. Tomorrow on Thursday, we're going to post our Q&A video that Alex and I did. So that'll be coming up for our Patreon members. And then next Thursday, we'll roll out the NHL TV broadcaster rankings for all the local TV crews, and we had a lot of fun doing that. It's a really good discussion too because it's always open for debate. Obviously it's always from everyone's individual perspective, but I guarantee you that in terms of that NHL local TV broadcast team rankings video that we'll post on Patreon next week, there's very few people more qualified than me to talk about it because I've seen these crews like for years now, and I'm watching hockey every night, and I get both feeds available to me every night for the game. So I'm able to really see which crews are good, which play-by-play guys are good, which analysts are good, which ones aren't, and we put a lot of great insight into that. So that'll be posted next Thursday. All of that and more, patreon.com/Ice Guys, just $10 a month.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we had a blast recording all that stuff, and this is some, like I said, not all betting related things. Just some fun hockey stuff. So it's kind of some nice, maybe after the game, sit down and maybe roll one or pour a drink and relax and enjoy some lighter side of the hockey entertainment we have to offer over the Patreon page.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely check all of that out. All right, and check out our best bets here for the Wednesday show. Those are coming up in just a second, right after we hear from Manscaped. Support for the Ice Guys is brought to you by Manscaped, our good friends at Manscaped, who are the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Their products are precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped's Performance Package, the ultimate men's hygiene bundle. Join over 7 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you, courtesy of the Ice Guys. Get 20% off of any purchase and free worldwide shipping with the promo code Ice Guys. That's promo code Ice Guys, all one word, ICEGUYS at manscaped.com. If my math is correct, that's about 400 million balls that you can help preserve with manscaped.com using the promo code Ice Guys. You get the Performance Package 4.0. It is a game changer. The Lawnmower 4.0. It takes care of this, among other things. It'll keep you trim as can be. The Lawnmower 4.0, waterproof. Same thing with the Weed Whacker, which takes care of your ear hair, nose hair. I mean, nose hair in particular. You know, I'm getting up there in age, and nose hair is becoming definitely more of an issue. This will take care of it. It feels like someone's tickling the inside of your nostrils sometimes. It pisses the hell out of me. It bothers me. I need to take care of that shit. This will take care of it for you. The Weed Whacker. Makes part of the package that you get with your Manscaped purchase and the Manscaped Performance Package 4.0. You also get the ball toner. You also get the ball deodorant, keep you smelling good and looking good and feeling good down in the nether regions. This package is really going to make you feel good and look good and look better, slim, trim. That's what it's all about. And manscaped.com can help you out with that. So make sure you take advantage of this. Manscaped.com. Get 20% off and free shipping with the promo code IceGuys at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com, and use the promo code IceGuys. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. All right, we're back here on the Ice Guys and ready to wrap up the Wednesday edition of the show with Best Bets. Alex, what do you like for Best Bet?
Yeah, we're going to go with the Chicago. No, I'm kidding. We're going down the street with the Avalanche and Wild draw, plus 335. Regulation draw, folks, not yes, no overtime. We're going regulation draw, plus 335. 2 of the last 4 meetings between the two teams have gone past regulation. Back-to-back games for the Wild in this homestand have gone past regulation. We've seen the last game with Colorado just 24 hours ago go into the shootout. So I think it's going to be a tight game between two hated division rivals who desperately need points. They're going to at least get one, hopefully. We got the draw with Colorado and Minnesota. Regulation draw plus 335. That's my best bet.
There you go. Colorado, Minnesota draw plus 335. Best bet for Alex B. Smith. That's the second game of the TNT Wednesday night doubleheader. And hopefully it's a good game. That's a game that I'm definitely tuned into. It's a huge 2 points on the line. They're neck and neck, and neither team's guaranteed a shit right now in terms of the playoffs. So they both need the points, and it's a very important game at stake for both Colorado and Minnesota tonight. All right, my best bet, I'm Captain Obvious best bet, but and look, tonight maybe with Seelovs in net, we're a little bit more worried, but if it ain't broke, don't fix it. It's Rangers Canucks over 6.5 minus 125. I think now with Seelovs in net, I could see Vancouver playing hard tonight and really peppering the Ranger net. And the one thing about the Rangers is they still do give up shots. So Vancouver could score some goals tonight. You just hope the Rangers don't get blanked by a kid that is making a rare. He has started before, by the way, in the NHL. This is not his NHL debut, but still, he's got to overcome this just Swiss cheese blue line in front of him that every goaltender in Vancouver has struggled with. So I'm sticking with it. I mean, the Vancouver games just continue to fly over, and we'll look to add one more to the ledger here tonight. New York Rangers, Vancouver Canucks, over 6.5, a minus 125 for my best bet. That'll wrap up this edition of the Ice Guys. Thanks to everyone in the chat for joining us. Hit the like button on the way out. We appreciate it very much. A reminder, the Ice Guys is live 7 days a week, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday and Sunday, noon Eastern. If you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms: Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and more. Download the Ice Guys podcast when you can't watch the show live. For Alex B. Smith, I'm Ian Cameron. There's our guy in the chat, Ben James. Again, another shout out to him for an incredible sweep of the board yesterday in his show debut. Great job by Ben. We'll definitely have you back on the show.
He likes over 6.5 in Anaheim Buffalo.
Better bet that. He can't lose right now, apparently. But there, and I like that too. That is on my card as well. Buffalo Anaheim over 6.5. Yeah. So great job by Ben yesterday. Thanks to everyone for tuning in, watching, and listening to the show. Enjoy the games and good luck on this Wednesday night. And we'll be back with you tomorrow on Thursday for another edition of the Ice Guys presented by National Hockey Now.